suppose that a modern Mary Magdalene would be able to ask Christ Jesus of old, the master of Christianity, a deep-reaching question. What is man, that God should be his likeness? Would Jesus of old have been stumped by this kind of question? Indeed, how would a spiritual scientist, a Christ scientist, such as he was, answer in this case? He might answer by first clarifying the question. Are you referring to my saying that I and the Father is one? He might ask her. Are you referring to the old saying, God is reflected in man? Mary's gesture would suggest that she is uncertain. The two are the same, Jesus would say to her. Isn't that what I have always said? When we say that God is reflected in men, or comes to light as men, whereby God is expressed, then we also say that man actively reflects God by his very nature. This interrelationship is that of a lateral unity. No hierarchical separation exists here. The concept of God as an overlord, giving his blessings or commands to underlings, who then follow the commands, is a tragic myth. This mythical relationship exists only in the imagination. To recognize this trap is one of the most difficult challenges in theology. Divine science lays before us that principle and its idea is one. That's the reality of our being. God and man is one. Nothing else is possible. But you are special, says Mary. People say that God gave his personal Son to the world, his only Son, as a kind of sacrifice to help humanity out of its troubles. They say you are that Son. The personal Son singularity is a tale of ecclesiastical delusion, answered Jesus to Mary. Reality is far more beautiful. It begins with the recognition that while it is true that God has only one Son, it is also true that this Son is far greater than I. The Son of God is humanity, the image of God's being, the Son of his heart. My identity is rooted in that. I am a part of it. I am not existing apart from that. Still I am special in terms of the task that has been assigned to me. Everyone has a unique role to play in making our world a rich and beautiful place to live in for all humanity. I am special in this sense. I have a role to play that I became uniquely qualified for by the development that we have achieved in Mother's Academy over many years in discovering what God is. I am not the Messiah. The Christ is the Messiah. The Christ is God's self-revealing impetus. That's the Messiah. That's what we have scientifically discovered in Mother's Academy and have verified in demonstrated experiences. Mother got into troubles over that as she disturbed the waters of a small-minded world. But she prevailed. I am the result of those early efforts, and also by what we developed after I was born. I am the product of discoveries over the span of many years in many places. That's what I represent. That's what I bring to the world. That's what I share with the world. What I share is the result of 30 years of intense scientific development. It took us 30 years to get us closer to God, to what we are as the sons of God. And this is real. People can sense this. They can sense that there is somebody home in a profound way. God's role in this was only to open the door. For centuries, when people got into trouble, they have prayed to God to help them. That's like accusing God of having messed up by allowing things to go way out of hand, so much so that evil rules in the world. People are looking for some kind of redemption. They are looking for divine intervention. A prophet, a leader, a healer, a Christ, a redeemer. The prospect became the hope for the nations. But how could God fulfill this hope, knowing that error is impossible in divine creation, or has ever occurred, because principle is unerring, complete, harmonious, unfailing, unchanging. We have puzzled about this in Mother's Academy, Jesus might have said to Mary. Mother had suggested that God would have answered the people's prayer in a beautiful divine manner by pointing out to them that they already have in their heart what they so desperately seek. God can only alert them that they already have what they seek. That's all God needs to do or can do. People have it in their heart, in the form of the Christ, God's self-revealing impetus to become the sons of God and to experience the power of it and the joy. A higher level form of prayer would be, Thou self-revealing one, reveal thyself in me. With that, the seeker would be far advanced on the path home. The term Christ is an ancient term that signifies something like divine science. Those who represent the Christ supremely may have told the people through the ages that their need for healing indicates that they had lost sight of their divinity, that is in their heart and soul, that is the Christ. If one loses sight of what one is as the Son of God, the heart droops and the mind becomes dull. Those Christ-alert pioneers may have counseled society also to look for the Christ in everyone's heart and to take note of the wonders when the heart is intensely alive with the Christ. That's a scientific process, of course. The alert in society naturally follow this revealing light. They follow the starlight that sparkles in thinking. They latch onto whatever grand achievements are wrought on this path and discover thereby the science that moves the world and they move with it to where it leads them. They follow their discoveries, having become Christ scientists on that path. You too, Mary, will discover what a human being is. You will discover the Christ in the heart becoming alive. You will discover it by it becoming a flame, even a fire of light in the heart. That's how the people found me, and they found that in this light evils have no place. That's how I heal. I give my light that I have discovered in the heart. This light touches the people. It does the healing. That's how Christ healing works. It's that simple. Everyone can do this. Everyone can be a healer. You can do this too, Mary. That's how you discover that you too are the Son of God. The Son of God is a healer by design. In this light that you then project into the world, with the Christ being alive in you on the path of science, your being alive becomes felt by all humanity. People then feel that there is something alive that is touching them, something profound, something precious, something that inspires them to become alive themselves. The Christ is in the heart. It reflects the heart of God. No one is ever without the Christ. Science brings the divine Christ alive. It causes the heart of God to come alive for us. It uplifts us. It makes us a new man, as it were. The old man gives way thereby to the divine man. On this path, you too discover that both terms, science and Christ, are names for humanity, for the Son of God. All of these names is one principle, and its idea is one. This is to say that man is, by divine design, a Christ scientist, a scientist in the universe of spirit, someone who understands God as spirit, and himself as being a part of it, not an appendage to it. In divine science, man becomes man. And so, to answer your question, what is man? That God should be his likeness. The simple answer is that when we discover man, with the Christ becoming alive in divine science, we discover God. The Christ has the power to raise an individual up to where it is fully understood and acknowledged in actions and in loving that God and man is one, as principle, and its expression is one. This applies to every aspect of what God is. It applies to life and truth, and to love and mind, and to soul and spirit. If we don't see and experience these as aspects of man, we don't see and experience God. And God is thereby seen merely theoretical, typically as an enigma. It appears that I am already thinking in such higher terms, Mary would answer. I tell people that the Christ can take us as high as we want to go to discover us as the image of God. If two concepts are equal in value and quality, then one reflects the other. When people ask me, "What is God?" I have no choice but to say to them, "Look at man, look into your heart. God is found in man's divine likeness." That's how we experience God as truth and in all its attributes. Obviously, God isn't something that one can touch, hear, smell, weigh, measure. But when one looks at man as an idea of God and peels all the fog away that imagination has cast around the image of man, then one begins to get a sense of what God is, or what God necessarily is. The Christ helps us peel that fog away. It guides us to what we should see and experience. The Christ is our science. It raises us up to the point that we see God coming alive in us in ever more profound experiences. What we experience defines God's image for us. That isn't theoretical and ecclesiastical. This leads us to my secondary question. What is man? In the purest absolute form, with all the fog peeled away, whereby God becomes his likeness, as the two are one. So I must ask myself, what is God's likeness? One reflects the other. That's why I ask myself, what am I as God's likeness? Looking beyond the theoretical, I make strong demands in this regard. You say that science enables me to discover the answer. You say the answer is the answer of God's Christ in the heart. Most people comment that I raise the concepts of God and man onto a platform where either of them has rarely been seen, if ever. My question to you is, am I on the mark with that? Or am I far off that I'm not even in the ballpark? Jesus nods. Yes, Mary, if two concepts are of equal value and quality, then one does indeed reflect the other, but only qualitatively and in value, and not individually in their expression. This must be so because God is too wide for a single expression to encompass all. God is individual, as are you and I, while we are united in principle. We both have the same principle at heart, because there is only one principle, and the same love, and the same truth, and the same spirit, the same life, the same soul, and the same mind, because there is only one, which is God. However, we express the divine individually in countless ways and forms. By this, God becomes infinitely expressed on the wide scene of individuality. However, God is not in man, nor does man live in God. The concept of in is invalid in the relationship with the one that is not a singularity but is all. We can say that God is expressed by individual men, and the forms of it, its beauty, power and joy, and so on. We can say that we express God, but God is not in us. We express what God is as a matter of principle, because nothing else is possible. In this context, I can say that man is God's expression, because God is principle being expressed universally. No other expression is really possible. On this basis, I say that I and God is one. And as God is creative principle, so am I a creator, as a matter of principle. Principle is not in me. I am the expression of it, and so is everyone. And because I am a creator, as we are all, God must necessarily be so likewise, because God is the principle that I express. God cannot get away from the expression of what He is. Neither can I get away from what God is. My task is to get away from the crap that God is not. I find healing in the process, and joy, and peace, and power, harmony, freedom, and all good. I help others on this path, because that's really the only path there is. People say that I am a light in the world. I tell them that is also true of them, because God is light, and there is no outside possible. There is no substance in darkness. There is no substance in anything that God is not. There is no substance in a void such as sickness, evil, terror, murder, war, even death. And if there is no substance in a void, because God is substance, consequently, no void really exists other than in the imagination. And this we can deal with. God and man exist in lateral relationship by what God is. Consequently, all humanity lives in a lateral relationship with one another, because nothing else is possible. I see the whole of humanity existing on the plane of a lateral lattice, with no one above it, no one below it. And I see humanity connected universally with one another, with strands of light, because God is light. The strands of light have many colors. One color is love, as we all have already discovered. This means that love is universal. When love is missing, there is something spiritually lacking. In this case, there is too much fog hiding the sun. If love becomes small, so that it becomes purely personal, then what we regard as love is fundamentally mythological, because divine love is universal. If we love, we cherish the all in the individual. That's where we find the sun. This is the light that we express, whereby loving becomes rich and bright. Whenever the universal quality is missing in loving, loving is too small. It misses the mark. Our greatest need, then, is to develop the keen scientific sense of recognizing ourselves as a part of the great lateral lattice that reflects the all-embracing unity of one, that is God and the universe, connected with strands of soul, life, truth, love, mind, principle, spirit, which are all the light of it, because God is all. So I am asking you, what is man, that God should be found in man's likeness? You find your answer in the great lateral lattice, that is the one because God is all. The concept of an outside becomes invalid when the one is all. Here one begins to discover what it means to be the Son of God, or more correctly, the Son of God. You find the answer in the light that pervades all. The light is there. Look for it, discover it, cherish it. Nourish your divine sense of it as you discover in it your joy, peace, power, and happiness. Then you discover man in the generic sense, including yourself in the specific sense, as you discover what God is. Since our language hasn't developed a proper term yet that signifies generic man as the image of God, the term God itself comes close enough to qualify, even while the full concept of God includes the universe together with man. Nevertheless, we are wide enough as humanity, now and for all times to come, in our expression of what we recognize to be attributes of God, which are greater than us all, from life to love, to soul and mind, and principle and spirit, as the great truths. And so, as we glimpse these in us and in one another, the nature of God and the universe comes to light.